Today, Mentoring Writers is delighted to be in conversation with Lis McDermott. Liz is a lady of many talents, being a trained musician, music educator, professional photographer, and now not just a brilliant poet and writer, but also a mentor. Liz, it's great to have you in conversation with me today. Welcome.
Thank you very much. That was a bit of a rather a good introduction.
We try and do our best. Now, you and I met through a mutual friend within the publishing world, but before we talk about your writing, I want to know a little more about your earlier career, in particular your music, because I know there's a piano behind you and your educating role. Was music always the one thing you wanted to do?
It was, yeah, from being quite little. And I started out with piano lessons. And as long as I was going to take exams, my mum was fine. And I then joined the Leicestershire Schools Youth Orchestra, which was a really, really good youth orchestra. I played the viola very badly, but at least I got in the orchestra. And I wanted to go to music college. I didn't want to be a performer. I wanted to teach because I was like those girls on the competitions. I wanted to work with children. So I went off to music college and then I went into teaching.
Lovely,
So,
lovely. As a music lover myself, I must say I enjoy all types of music, well, except for heavy metal. Somehow or other, I have never got on with it. I don't know why. It just doesn't do it for me. So, what sort of music turns you on? What makes you want to get up there and get joining in?
mostly I just want to dance when I hear soul music, lively music, music with a beat. And I do love rap music as well. I like the juxtaposition of the beat and the words. And there's some really good poets out
Yeah,
there who are
yeah,
rappers,
yes, yes,
despite
there
what
are.
people think.
Yeah, some of it I'm not keen on, some of it I am.
It's like all music. There's some classical music which is absolute rubbish, but it doesn't have to be good just because it's classical music.
That's true. That's
You know,
true. Now, I have a friend who was up until recently working in musical education. In fact, we once did a special recording for the Kids for Kids charity that I ran. Um, did you enjoy being a teacher? What do you think what do you think teaching brought to your life? I mean, I did train for 2 years, so I've got some insight into about teaching. So
Mm.
what did it bring to you?
um, I really wanted to teach until I started to do it, and I taught secondary. And the thing I hated, I am not a disciplinarian, and I was rubbish at trying. I mean, I remember on one occasion I had a class of, I suppose they were first year secondary, and I used to teach in this room where there was raised dais they used to sit on. So it was like having a little choir in front of you, but that gave them ample opportunity to mess about. And one time I came in and I had to bend down to get something off the piano from underneath the piano. And when I stood up, they all threw bits of paper at me. And instead of telling them off, I just burst into fits of laughter and we just had a big giggle. And actually, it was fine. But I really didn't enjoy it when I had classes that were not nice little people.
Yeah.
And so eventually I became well, not because of that, but I became an advisory teacher. And that was the best time because I was working in classrooms to show teachers how to teach musical aspects and how to teach them the kids music in their lesson when they weren't specialists.
Yes.
So I had to think on the hoof to find ways that would work for them creatively, ways that would work with them in their classes. And then I used to do big workshop days. And one of my favourites was working with all the special schools. And I'd have groups and groups of schools together and all these children. And it was just wonderful because you'd be singing with them, getting them to play instruments, getting them to do little dances. It was absolutely magical. And so from that point of view, I loved that.
Yeah.
And latterly in my education career, I was an Ofsted inspector as well. So people go, "Sss," but the good thing about that, well, it was a privilege because I would see some amazing teachers. some really amazing teachers.
Yeah.
And it was, I used to love it because I saw some wonderful schools doing that.
Yes.
So I was very lucky.
I think working with children, I find it a pleasure as well. I do find it a pleasure. So now there came a time when you decided to change careers,
Yeah.
and you actually took up photography. Was it a sudden decision, or was that just something you again you'd always wanted to do?
I hadn't always wanted to be a photographer, no, but at school I did A-level art. So I've always been quite interested in the visual. And my best friend, when I was working as an advisor, was the science advisor. And he is a fantastic landscape photographer. And when digital photography came out, he was single, so he'd always got money to buy stuff. So he bought himself one of the first digital cameras, and then he was upgrading. So he sold that to me. And we happened to be in Italy on holiday, the four of us, and I was out taking pictures, and I thought, oh, this is great, because you can see the picture on the back. It was so exciting. You know, I didn't have to wait for it to be gone, to be, you know, can't think what the word is, to be developed. I could see it. And so I started doing that. And then as he upgraded, I upgraded each time. And I love people. So I started photographing friends. And the one that really gave me the confidence, a friend of mine who actually is a musician and writes music for children, a lot of music for children, she's very well known in the industry. Her daughter is an opera singer, and she's absolutely stunning. And she asked me to, no, she'd been to London to have some photos done, hated them. So I said to her, could I do some? Because she's stunning. I mean, why wouldn't she get good photos? Because she's beautiful.
Yeah.
So she said yes. So I went round to her mum's house and took all these photos of her, and she was absolutely thrilled. And they used them as her photos. When she got married, she asked me to do her wedding.
Lovely.
So from that, I started to do weddings, families, babies, everything to do with people. I went on a training course, which was over time. I didn't do a proper degree or anything, but no, it was fantastic. So
yeah, I mean, I follow you on social media, so I've seen a lot of these images and the comments and that you know that you've been posting from weddings and other events that you've photographed. It must be pleasing and satisfying to read the lovely comments, because there have been some really nice, heartwarming comments, and know that you've evoked such happy memories by the responses you've received.
It has, and you don't realise when you're taking photos, you actually forget how important it is. Because I've had one or two things. One was where somebody had actually got married. It was a gay wedding. Two boys got married, and about a year later, I had a message from one of them saying, "Could I please give him all the pre-wedding photos, because they had a pre-shoot?" Sorry, I've got a hair in my mouth. And I said, yes, of course you can. And he said, he died last night. And I was like, you know, what am I thinking? Anyway, he said to me, your pictures are the only thing I've got of the memories of him. Yeah. And I'll pay for them. He said, I went, no, you won't. So I said, do you want me to post them? Would you like me to come round? And he said, come round. I went round, and it was so lovely to see him, but it was such a shock. Yeah. But that happened, not the bride or the groom's dying, but that happened where family members had died, and then people had come back and say to me, can I have a big picture of so-and-so from the wedding because they've died? Yeah. That was lovely to do. And the other thing that was really interesting, one of the most interesting weddings was, I did one wedding where the bride gave birth 3 days before the wedding. And she was young, so she looked amazing in her dress. She would never guess, apart from the fact that she kept having to feed the baby during the day, so she kept pulling her dress up. It was wonderful. So we also did a baby shoot. So, you know, after the wedding, we did a little baby shoot in their hotel room with the baby as well.
I must admit, when I don't suppose I should really put this out, but when my youngest daughter got married, she was close, and my late husband was doing the toast, and he said, We were taking bets as to whether we'd be here at the hospital. So, yes.
I thought this bride was cutting it fine, but I hadn't realised it was quite that fine.
So, brilliant. So I want to move on to discussing the next change in your career. Now, this is the one where you become a poet and an author, but I especially want to mention your lovely husband, Conrad. Now, people who know you would know Conrad, and he's got a lovely smile. He's got a fabulous smile, and when you see photographs of him when he's smiling, it lights up the picture. It really does. Now, the thing is that you wrote a book, a marvelous book, about your love for each other because of your differences. And it's titled Mixed Feelings. Are you willing to share with us some of that wonderful romance that I know still exists after so many years?
Yeah. Yeah, he is lovely. And it's very funny that, just saying quickly, because people don't meet him, but when we do meet people, they go, "Oh, hello, Conrad," and he knows where they've seen him because he doesn't do social media, but he does via me. So we wrote the book because on paper you would think we would never meet. We're 12 years difference, with me being the older, which is slightly more unusual. He has no qualifications whatsoever. I went to college and did all that stuff. So that sort of puts us on slightly different levels of where we'd come across each other. And he is from a West Indian background, born in Britain, but West Indian descent. So again, black and white mix. So we might never have passed. And when as I say, you look at us on paper and it's like, well, what have they got in common? And we met clubbing. I saw him across the dance floor and thought he was cute. My girlfriend happened to know the person he was with. She told him. He asked me to dance. We had a dance. And then he came down to see me the next weekend, and it just grew from there. And we're just soulmates. We are so close to each other. We give each other space, but we're really, I know during lockdown, a lot of people have found things tricky, but for us, it's just lovely because he's not actually locked down because he's still working. But when we have been at home together, and whenever we're at home, we just love our company together. Yeah. We like listening to the same music. We love watching the same films. He's an idiot. He makes me laugh. I'm always joking that he's trying to give me a heart attack to finish me off, because he'll do things and suddenly leap out at me and I don't expect it. I mean, we have real fun. We're always laughing. Yeah. So, yes. And this year we've been together for 28 years.
That's lovely. That's lovely. Yeah. Everything you've described there between you and Conrad, I've got that between my current husband. I'm on husband number 3, as you know, and Derek's Welsh. And of course, everybody can tell from my accent, I am not Welsh. I am from Yorkshire. And there's nothing more awkward, stronger, weird, and not to mess with than a Yorkshire lass. And we are literally totally different. And yet we gel so well together. We call each other horrible names at times. He calls me an old git. What does he call me? He calls me an old git. I call him an old git. Things like that. But we know that we do it in a loving way, and it's great. And again, we sit in silence and we're comfortable in our silence with each other. And then we'll laugh and joke and all sorts. So yeah, I understand perfectly. I looked at the book. When you look at the book cover, and I thought, oh, that's quite sensual. Yeah, it's so simple. Have you got it?
I have, yeah.
Go on, flash your book cover. But it's so keeping with the story. I think
it's us.
That's you, yes.
Because we've both got dragon tattoos, because we're both born in the year of the dragon. So
brilliant.
And the only tattoos we've got, but there you go, that's it.
And I actually loved the book cover. I thought it was really good. So tell me, do you think you might write a sequel? Say something about how long and why you've lasted together. Maybe. Show how love descends and overcomes everything. Maybe,
Well,
maybe not.
maybe. I mean, maybe it could be something about this last year through lockdown and how we felt about that, and also all the stuff with Black Lives Matter, because actually that impacted on us in a way, because when people were saying lots of stuff, they'd ask me what I thought, and because I'm with somebody who's Black, obviously, you have a different insight. So I think possibly, but we'll see.
We'll see. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. I want to thank you for being so open about your relationship. And I want to go on to discuss your other writing. Now, it appears you're quite eclectic, as you've written for business, you've written short stories. I know poetry is a strong subject with you. And you're now attempting, as I know, to write a novel. Do you find your desire to write isn't just concentrated on one particular area? Do you like to opt for different styles, different genres?
Yeah, I do. I think getting bored isn't the right word, but I like new challenges. So I think I like to do different things. I mean, I started with I'd done the business book first, and I actually did a business book when I was in education. I co-authored a music scheme, which was used nationally apart from Scotland, and that was good fun. But I really felt like a writer when I wrote that first book of short stories, because it came out of my head. Whereas the business books, it's sort of what I'm doing for my business.
Well, it's factual. It's a factual thing. When you
And
write, I mean,
it's still, you've still got to put it into words, but it didn't. But to do a whole book of little short stories, gave me much more satisfaction because it was out of my head. And obviously writing the autobiography was easy because it was about, well, it wasn't easy because I had to think a lot about what had happened in the past. And the further you get away from it, the harder it is. But apart from that, I think writing poetry, writing the novel, I'm really enjoying being able to just escape and think about stuff and make up places and people, and
I think it's going to be a good book because as I said,
I'm hoping so.
I've reviewed some of it already, and yes. So now, as I mentioned earlier, part of your writing is to do with poetry, and you have published books on poetry. Is this something special that draws you into the poetry world? Because I mean, it is classed as being quite an elite area. Well, it used to be. So, or is that just like me? It's you're similar to me, and you just like writing this variety.
I do like writing the variety, but I think also for me, poetry is a bit like music. It's the rhythm of it I like, and the form and the shape. But for me also, I know you agree, it's the accessibility. I think poetry has to be accessible. If I get to the end of a poem and think, what the heck was that about? Then what's the point of it? Because it needs to speak to people. They need to be able to understand what it's about.
Yeah, that's true. One of the things I've discovered about many authors is they are eagerly willing to support and boost other writers. We go to book launches and signings, as well as commenting on social media, and we're often seen to be boosting a writer's morale when it gets low. I mean, especially at this time of, with last year and what's going on. We also join in their events. Now, over the last few months, you started something called Liss's Poetry Place. And this is an online meeting of like-minded people who enjoy writing poetry. Now, I'm not a great writer of poetry, but I do like doing it, which is why I joined the group. So will you share with our listeners why you set it up, give them some details about the group, what it consists of, and when we meet?
Okay. Well, you are not as bad a poet as you think. You've written some lovely poems, so slap on your hand for that. I set it up because I just wanted to give other people a go at writing poetry who perhaps felt, I've got people in there who've gone, I've written poetry for a long while, but I'm not really very good. I've got others that haven't written poetry, want to have a go. So it's a whole mix of people, and that's really what I wanted. I didn't want people who were experienced poets who wanted to come into the group and, this sounds a bit disingenuous, but show off about how good they were. I wanted people to be able to feel safe, to experiment, to just share what they're doing, and that's what it's about. It's about having fun with words and expressing yourself in any way you want. And I think what set me off to do it, before explaining a bit more about it, what set me off to do this, because as you just said, while we've been in lockdown, and this last year of real weirdness in many ways, a lot of people have felt very low. And on Instagram, I belong to a few little communities, and one particular community was set up by a friend called Ryan. And Ryan has got people together. He's got thousands of followers now by doing this, but he's not doing it for that reason. He wanted to help people to have an aim when they were writing their poetry. So what he does every day, he sets a prompt.
Wow.
And you write, if you feel like it, you write a short poem. It has to fit a square, obviously, to go onto Instagram. You write a 1 page of Instagram size poem for his prompt. And he gets them in books. And actually, I'm just going to flash one at you just to show you, because I've actually just had one come through the post. He's done one on that was one wow. prompt. And really? He had an awful lot of replies for that prompt. So he put a little book together, and what he does each month is do a book, which is usually a lot fatter, of a certain amount of these poems. And so I was thinking, well, he's doing that, but he's setting himself a whole task of having to do that every single day. And I knew I couldn't do that because I write blogs for one of my business friends' clients and stuff like that. So I thought if I did something monthly, it would be easier. So we meet once a month. We've just changed it to a Saturday afternoon, the last Saturday of the month. And what happens is I set some tasks or some prompts, and people can write those prompts if they want, although some people don't write the prompts, they just write their own thing, which is fine. They all send them to me. I read through them and I choose something from everybody, sometimes 2, depending on how many people. So some people perhaps send 1 poem, and other people send a whole load of prompts because they've got more time and they just love writing more or feel more comfortable writing. Mm-hmm. And I choose them and I read them out. And we have a learning point where I'll perhaps share a new type of poetic form and how it works, or we'll talk about writing, thinking about imagery or something like that. So there's a learning point. And then I ask somebody to share a poem that they love. And then quite often we'll have a bit of a chat about things. On one occasion, we had just a free writing bit. So there's all sorts of different things that can happen. And at the end of it, when we finished, I give them new prompts for the next month. But I then send everybody who's in the group all of the poems that we've had in, so they can just see them. And the idea is at the end of maybe a year, depending how many poems we've got, it might have to be a bit longer, so we've got enough to try and get a little book published with all of their poems in.
Yeah.
And I will choose the ones to go in that. I mean, there might be some that don't make it, but I'm sure most of them will. And people pay £10 a month for that. And that money I'm saving to pay so we can have the book published properly, right, and get it done really nicely.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Right, thank you. That's great. Now, for those interested, I shall, of course, be including a link to the group on all my social media and my websites, or you can email me for details, contact@mentoringwriters.co.uk. Now, before we finish our conversation, I want to ask a couple more questions, but this is something a bit more personal. And this goes right back to when you were a young child. I'm sure you can remember that far back. So, can you remember what it is you wanted to do or be when you grew up?
I wanted to be an architect.
Oh.
But I soon found out there was no way I would ever be that, because if I'm allowed to say this word, I'm absolutely crap at maths.
I love it.
So I used to sit in lessons and design houses. Obviously, the measurements were non-existent, but I'd draw designs for houses.
I love it. An architect. It's a good one, is that? I like that.
You didn't expect that, did you?
No, I did not expect that one. That's something I didn't expect. Yes. Someone said to me the interview I did last, they said, she says, well, everybody says they want to be a ballerina or a fairy. She says, and I suppose I did when I was really small. She says, but when I got to sort of like early teenager, she says, I wanted to be a racing driver.
Oh, brilliant.
It was good. I thought it was good. Yeah. So looking back over your different careers to date, if you could, would you change anything in one or more of them? And if so, what would it be?
No, I wouldn't.
You wouldn't?
No, because they're all creatives. They're all creative industry type things.
Yeah.
And I just see them as me going through those different areas of my life or my brain or whatever. No, because they're the things I just love all things artistic.
Yeah.
So for me,
different phases that you've
the only thing I would maybe want to do if I had the chance when I was younger would have been dance, not ballet. No. Because my mother used to tell me that if I was the ballerina and the guy was going to catch me, he'd go through the floor. Nice.
Mothers can be so cruel.
I know, but I love dancing. I love moving. So if I could have done more, I prefer modern ballet anyway to classical ballet, but modern dance sort of thing. That would have been the only other thing. Not drama. Don't like drama.
No.
But yeah. You're imagining that now.
Yeah. Yes. I'm picturing you in my mind doing the Sugar Plum Fairy.
No.
And I can say that because we're friends, so I can get it. Finally, can I ask you, what does the future hold for Lis McDermott, both as a writer and a mentor? Come on, plug yourself, girl.
Well, I am hoping that I'm going to continue mentoring lots of people. I'm really excited because I started mentoring professionally last year, and I've got one lady who's just got her book back to the publisher, and that will hopefully be published this year. And I've got another one who's likely to be there too. I've just put together, I will be speaking to somebody very soon. I've just put together a little poetry book of micro poems, which I think would work, possibly with some little sketches in. So I've got that, but I also just want to carry on mentoring. I've worked out that I like to help other people to succeed. So when I was a teacher, I was doing that. As a musician, I accompany, and as an accompanist, you're there to be the bass for the singer, the soloist. Yeah. As a photographer, you're there to make people look good behind the camera, in front of the camera. Yeah. And as a writer, mentor, I'm there to help people succeed when they quite often, and I'm sure you get the same, they'll go, oh, I'm not going to be able to do anything with this. It's not going to be very good. And to see their faces when they realize it's going to be in a book is just priceless.
One of my mentees sent me an email this morning. I've been reviewing her first book of 3, so the first of a trilogy. They're for children, but I think they're chapter books, but they're middle grade. I was reading it, and I said to her, I'll be writing to you shortly with the review and what I think. I said, but I'm so excited about it. I could crush a grape. And so she emailed me and she said, then I emailed her and I said, oh, you naughty, naughty girl. This is how I started the email. Yeah. I said, you've left me wanting more. And she had the way she finished the first book. I thought, you've stopped it. No, you can't do that. And then I thought, well, yes, you can.
But you're going to write another one.
Yeah, because the next book's got to come. But it was, she put in it, she says, I had to look up what it meant. She says about crushing a grape. She says, because I could crush a whole bunch of grapes. She says, I realised it's a kids' programme. And I mentioned it to Derek this morning, and I said, I always remember Tommy Ball from Cannon and Ball doing it. He used to go, "Ooh, I could crush a great Tommy," you know, and all this. And it was, and he says, no, it was a kids program before that. So, but yeah, so there we go. Crush a great. Well, of course, I do, of course, wish you all the best, as always.
Thank you.
I want to thank you, Liss. I want to say how much I've enjoyed our conversation. It has been most enlightening. Yeah, the architectural bit. And I hope that our listeners have discovered something interesting about you and learnt more about your writing and your poetry, and especially the poetry group. And we might have some listeners out there who will be interested. Please do come and join us. Yes.
That'd be lovely.
It would be lovely. I want to say thank you. It's been
thank you. Thank you very much for inviting me.
You're welcome. You're welcome. I thank all your listeners for being here today. And in the meantime, if you need any help with your aspect of your writing journey, then please check out our website, mentoringwriters.co.uk, and we will endeavour to assist you. Once again, thank you, Lis McDermott, for being in conversation with me and Brady at Mentoring Writers.
Thank you.